species, millions of them probably, but no one knows exactly how many are on the move. So consider, for example, the humble shrimp. Shrimp, it seems, are pretty sensitive to water temperatures. And as a result, just last month, the shrimping season in the Gulf of Maine, here in the US, was canceled. So as the Gulf of Maine has warmed, the shrimp there have basically just left. Last year, when researchers went out to assess the stock, they found an average of 27 shrimp per tow, and that's compared with a historical average of 1,400. So that's a decline of 98%.
A few weeks ago, I met Abigail. Abigail was standing in line in the hot sun, holding an umbrella in the shade, and she was waiting along with several hundred other people. She waited for about 4 hours for a food distribution that actually didn't arrive in the end. This was at the conference center in Tacloban in the Philippines. It had turned into a refuge for thousands of people in the city that was one of the places that was worst hit by Typhoon Haiyan in November. And flying over the city the day before, it was clear to me that barely a building was left undamaged. Huge parts of the city were left in ruins, including Abigail's home. Her husband had been killed. She and her 2 small children, toddlers, were living with her mother in the shell of a building that was still standing, and they had been surviving on biscuits for a week. That was it. How do you communicate disaster at that scale? When it's so large, when it is a multi-sensory tragedy, it looks, feels, smells, sounds, and I can't remember the 5th sense, but it's just awful on every level. For me, it was the biscuits. I like biscuits. I'm English, I like dunking them in my tea. But would I want to survive on biscuits for an entire week? I don't think so. I'm sure no one here would either. That was the detail that really got me with that story. And faced with such enormous disasters as we go and cover, as journalists, as news reporters, that's what we focus in on. It's really hard to encapsulate the enormous scale of disasters, so we look for the human stories, the tiniest details.
Now, this March, I was covering the water crisis in Western India, which the media always call a drought. It's not a drought, it's a water crisis, it's not a meteorological failure at all. It's to do with how we use water. And in the same period, when we were talking about the century's greatest drought, nothing less will do for the media. It's got to be the fastest, fattest, shortest, whatever. Buildings were coming up with 30 floors, 40 floors, each and every floor with a private swimming pool. Can I show the first picture, please? Thanks. This is the plan for one that's coming up in Mumbai. It's a 37-floor structure. It's got... Now, more important than this is who were the construction labor on these buildings. They're all dispossessed farmers, marginal peasants, and agricultural laborers who are refugees of the water crisis, have fled their villages because there's no water. Their agriculture has collapsed, and those poor blighters are building these swimming pools.